Yevgeniy Sidorkin is an outstanding Kazakh graphic artist. However, he was not born in Kazakhstan. What circumstances brought him to this country, and how was his artistic destiny connected with Kazakhstan?
Евгений Матвеевич родился 9 мая 1900.
Yevgeniy Sidorkin was born on the 9th of May 1930. 15 years later, this date, the 9th of May, will become the day of victory over Hitler's invaders. He was born in a special place with a poetic name, the village of Lebyazhye, Swans in Russia. Then the family lived in Lithuania for some time. His father worked in Kaunas at the fur farm. After that, they moved to Kazan. And thanks to the fact that Yevgeniy Sidorkin was an extraordinarily capable boy from early ages, he learned Lithuanian, Latvian, and German languages on top of Russian. While in Kazan, he could comprehend the Tatar language, and it seems to me that his appreciation for Eastern culture takes its origin precisely from this moment of his childhood. His drawing attempts began at the age of 13, when he received his first letter of recognition for his drawings. And apparently, from that moment, Yevgeniy Sidorkin felt the call of destiny. He graduated from the Leningrad Institute of Painting, Sculpture and Architecture. And it was there that he met a girl from Kazakhstan who determined his fate, Gulfayrus Ismailova. Their love sparked, and they carried this feeling for each other through their whole lives. That's when his interest in Kazakh art and culture and the land was born. He comes after Gulfayrus Ismailova to Kazakhstan, and the couple moves to Almaty.
Появился как интерес к казахскому искусству, так и культуре, так и к земле. И он приезжает вслед за Гульфайрус Мансуровной, они вместе приезжают в Казахстан, в Алмату. Основные...
The main themes of his works are related to Kazakh culture. There is a statement that one of the properties of talent is the ability to perceive foreign, unfamiliar, and this phenomenon is truly amazing. How could someone brought up in international culture perceive the very origins of Kazakh people's culture, so subtle yet so deeply, filter it through his soul and intellect, ultimately creating true masterpieces that amazes even us, native Kazakhs?
Казахского народа, пропустить это через свою душу, через свой интеллект и в конечном итоге создать поистине шедевры, которые поражают нас, самих казахов. Евгений Матвеевич, как вы знаете, стоял у истоков.
Yevgeniy Sidorkin stood at the origins of the formation of the graphic school of Kazakhstan. Moreover, his techniques are used these days by many of the artists.
Техника графики считается более лаконичной.
The graphics is considered more laconic and restrained in expressive means. What do you think allowed Sidorkin to avoid color schemes in favor of this particular art form? An almost exceptional case. And the second question, what were his favorite graphic techniques?
Самая молодая техника графики литография, которая родилась в XIX веке.
The earliest graphics technique, lithography, which emerged in the 19th century, was his favorite. and in most cases, many of his works are autolithography. The main premise of this technique is that artists can make adjustments during the process of working on the stone or on the graphics itself. Therefore, some works could have some discrepancies. They say, there is no limit to perfection. This was one of his life mottos. He was constantly refining his work. Another common technique that Yevgeniy Sidorkin used is liner cut. This technique requires to cut drawings on the linoleum. This is a different technique. There are clear, more restricted lines. And I think Sidorkin used different techniques depending on the tasks that he set for himself.
Евгений Матвеевич каждый раз обращался к той или иной технике в зависимости от тех задач, которые он перед собой ставил.
Безусловно,
Yevgeniy Sidorkin was a great master indeed. He was an outstanding graphic artist who played an important role in the history of art in Kazakhstan. But what about the international context? How big is his impact on international art?
У Евгения Матвеевича, я считаю, была счастливая судьба в творческом плане и в человеческом тоже. Мы знаем много примеров.
I think that Yevgeniy Sidorkin enjoyed a fortunate and happy life, both in artistic and personal aspect. We know many cases when artist gains recognition only after death, and Sidorkin was recognized during his lifetime. In 1960s, he was recognized as a talented graphic artist. People realized that he was a phenomenon, and of course his works were taken to international exhibitions, to graphical biennales. His art received praise and awards.
Мы стараемся показывать и знакомить зрителей.
I want to say that we are trying to acquaint viewers with the masterpieces of Kazakh art, including the works of Yevgeniy Sidorkin. Not so long ago, we had an exhibition in two cities of Turkey, Ankara and Bursa. I would like to point out, during the vernissage, art critics came up to me, and I don't want to offend anyone, but they all stood near the works of Yevgeniy Sidorkin. It is a fact. We brought 4 works. It was a sea of emotions. People would stand there, speak to me, admiring the art and asking questions. All the talk was about Sidorkin. They were only interested in his work.
И спрашивали, и интересовались, и восхищали. Это было море эмоций. Они говорили только о Сидоркине. Их интересовали только его работы. В 2019 году последняя наша международная выставка, когда мы поняли, насколько высок интерес за рубежом именно к искусству графики, мы повезли, и вы ездили в Италию, вот это вот состоялось прекрасно.
The 2019 exhibition gave us an idea of just how interested the international community is in graphic art in particularly. A wonderful exhibition, Rhythms of the Kazakh Steppe, took place in Italy. We selected and brought graphic works with us. It's interesting that many years ago there was already an exhibition of Yevgeniy Sidorkin's art in Venice, and in 2019 his works came to Venice again, causing a flurry of emotions. Moreover, the organizers of the exhibition asked us to extend this exhibition for the 3rd month. This graphic art represents our culture and national characteristics in all of its spectrum.
Очень ярко, очень красочно, красочно я в плане эмоционально, представляет нашу культуру и национальные особенности.
Евгений Матвеевич Сидоркин, когда обращался к любому явлению, он стремился постичь его максимально досконально, проникнуть...
When Yevgeniy Sidorkin tried to reproduce any phenomenon, he strove to comprehend it as thoroughly and deeply as possible. Why did he create most of his works in series? The completeness, the scale of comprehension of the phenomenon is possible precisely when the work is carried out in stages. The golden fund of Kazakhstani art includes a wide variety of series of book illustrations created by Yevgeniy Sidorkin. One of the outstanding series was named Kazakh sports competitions. Take a look at the composition Kisku. He very often relied on the traditions of the Scythian style, literally stretching the body of the horse horizontally to convey the moment of hovering, somewhere deliberately distorting the anatomical structure of the horse in order to convey the feeling of dynamic flight. The lack of a horizon line helps us to feel this floating above the ground and incredible speed. The most interesting thing: two riders whose horses go head-to-head and young woman's desire to catch up with the young man in order to lash him, according to the rules of Kisku, catch the girl. After catching and kissing her, he must quickly turn around and rush away so that she doesn't lash him with her whip. And this moment of both rejection and paradoxical unity between two horsemen, a young man and a woman, is conveyed surprisingly accurately. Everything is in perfect balance. We see a true master of composition and line. The line itself very accurately expresses the entire artistic image, and of course a master of the technique of printed graphics, in particular autolithography. After all, autolithography allows you to preserve the special loose surface of a pencil drawing, which is shown on paper through subtle nuances, transitions, a characteristic texture of a pencil drawing. All this is transmitted when printing an autolithography, this subtle scratching on the surface. All this is subtly conveyed on the paper. Another remarkable sheet from this lithographic series is a composition called Bayga. Bayga is an equestrian competition where, like in any equestrian competitions, the winner is the first to arrive at the finish line. Pay attention to the composition of Yevgeniy Sidorkin, who builds the image of four horsemen exactly vertically, a completely unexpected angle. Because the positioning of the riders, as if strung on a symbolic axis, conveys the possibility of their equality, their incredible courage, this special fusion of the rider and his horse. After all, a nomadic culture presupposes the mastery in horseback riding skills. The children are practically sat in the saddle before they learn to walk, and the riders, merged with horses, rush swiftly to achieve victory. How much courage, incredible beauty, incredible skill and ability to ride their horses. Like the Santas, they seem to form a single entity with their horses. This feeling of incredible speed, flight, dynamics, and the complex composition of space, the vertical compositional solution, creates a magical effect of combining statics and dynamics when the artist expresses an incredible impulse of flying horsemen in a static graphical form.
Когда в статической графической форме художник выражает невероятный порыв летящих всадников. Обращаясь к той или иной теме, Евгений Матвеевич Sidorkin...
When addressing certain topic, Yevgeniy Sidorkin always tried to fully comprehend this phenomenon. At the same time, analyzing the individual features of the image, he is looking for an expression of universal human values. It is no coincidence that one of the themes in which the artist often finds a source of inspiration is the theme of motherhood. The image of mother and child appears in Sidorkin's works very often, in a wide variety of interpretations. I think they were partly internalized and represented the visions from his own experience, and were inspired by the image of his wife Gulfayrus Ismailova, together with their little son. This image is transformed, appearing both in the work Almaty Apples and in the birth of a Batyr, where a proud mother holds her baby as if introducing him to the world. One of the popular pieces that have received many international awards is Sidorkin's work titled The Lullaby. A mother who bowed her tender face to her sweet child. Their bodies merge into one figure. Compositionally, it resembles a horizontally lying figure of 8, a symbol of infinity. This is the symbolic embodiment of the endless love and tenderness that a mother will experience toward her child. This moment of unity, incredible tenderness, love, affection, and mutual need in each other is expressed so brilliantly from a technical point of view. Just an outstanding work.
Блестяще с технической точки зрения, безупречно, конечно, поскольку перед нами мастерство выдающегося рисовальщика.
The artist devoted a lot of time and effort to illustrating the works of Saken Seyfulin. The series was called Reading Saken Seyfulin. An unusual thing manifests itself in the fact that, on the one hand, the artist addresses a literary work, but at the same time, he didn't want to directly illustrate specific poetic lines or his thoughts. He strove to show a kind of visual image that would express the spirit of the people, the peculiarities of their life, because the poetic lines are generally dedicated to Kazakhstan and people living in their native steppe. Along with the lullaby, which we have already examined, a wonderful work called Shepherds also belongs to this cycle, to this large series Reading Saken Seyfulin, created in the 1960s. In the Shepherds, we see 3 generations. See how the artist created the image of a grandfather, father, and son. Building a composition, he unites them in some kind of monumental lump, a single mass. Indeed, they cannot exist without each other. This is the tendency and continuity of generations which existed from ancient times and determined the world view of Kazakh nomads, because everything from crafts and technologies for creating objects to spiritual values and ethical moral norms, all this was passed on from the older generation to the younger. And look how the artist, through the images of 3 characters, 3 people, was able to symbolically embody the image of time. There is past, there is present, and the future. And this moment is absolutely amazing, depicting 3 people not looking at each other. They don't interact in any way at this moment, but at the same time they are one, an extension of each other. And this infinitely strong spiritual and blood tie expresses the strength and spirit of the people whom Yevgeniy Sidorkin admires and seeks to convey their spiritual and moral beauty in his memorable images. Particularly serious and responsible task for the artist was working on the novel The Path of Abai, together with Mukhtar Awezov, the author of this outstanding literary work. Sidorkin created a large number of sketches, drawings, and images. He returned to this series twice. The first series, created in 1960, was performed using the liner cut technique, while the second, 10 years later, was performed using the autolithography technique. Long search profiles were embodied in pictures that tell about the life of a nomad in the steppe, about the life of people, about their passions and sorrows, joys and pains, about what fills everyday life, determines relationships between people, relationships with nature. And for the second series, made in the technique of autolithography, Yevgeniy Sidorkin was awarded the prestigious Shukan Walihanoff Prize.